tonight we're going to cover just another overview. We're slowly just going through the main features of the design software. So tonight we're going to finish up with a little bit of fonts that we didn't cover last week. And then we had some other tools on the edit tab, the power clip. So we're going to cover that tonight too. And then we'll touch up on some basic mock-ups. Hey Carol, I'm doing well. Thank you. Congrats, Sharon. What'd you win? Nice, nice. Congrats. All right, so we'll jump right in. So some of the fonts we didn't cover, and we actually came out with a new one today, which is pretty sweet. So we'll go over that one. And some of the rhinestone features themselves. So let's go ahead and we'll start with one of our multi-deck fonts. So, hey Rowenda, welcome. Just getting started. So this is our new Tier W Sport line. So the way these fonts will work, last week we covered the font preview. So with this type of font, this is going to actually have a combination of rhinestones and vinyl. So a vectorized and rhinestone font. So what we want to do in this case is we're going to start, this font is a little bit particular, and you can just do the same thing with all the multi-deck fonts, but if you type the vinyl side first, it tends to work better. In this font, you'll have to type the vinyl first. So that means we want to select our type in our lowercase. So we're going to select the font tool. Anyone got a mascot they want to use? Alright, Mustangs it is. Alright, so I'll type Mustangs. Now, I have it all in uppercase. So remember from last week, anyone that saw this I / it looks like an I, but it's actually a lowercase L. We'll switch that all to lowercase for me. So then I'm going to select the font. So these arrows up top here is going to open this font wizard tab. All right, so we want to select the lowercase first. Then, once I have this typed out, I can hit the number 2. So that's going to go ahead and fill this area with stones. So when I'm ready to resize this design now, because it has vinyl and stones, I can't simply just say, okay, they want this design for 9.5 inches wide. Because when I do that, these stones are 0.098 circles. So this one actually isn't too bad because that would actually be SS6 stones. But if we just picked a random number, let's say they want it 7.5 inches wide, now these stone sizes aren't actual stone sizes. So they're 0.077. So when we have any type of font that includes rhinestones, what we want to do is highlight the entire design, and then up top here we need to select our stone size that we want to use. So 10s, click resize. It will pop up not all stones are 0.13. Would you like to replace? We're going to hit yes. And it just is going to replace it with the color you have selected. So these just accidentally got all turned to crystals. But now I can make those whatever color I wanted. So let's say their colors are gray and green. Oh, red. Okay. And then we have the design set up just like that. So I appreciate if you show your stone table. When you say stone table, Carol, is this what you're referring to here? All right, yeah. So I'll leave this up for a second, just so in the recorded you can copy it down. What these we can go over a little bit too. So what I did here is right next to your stone size, so you can see SS10 equals 0.135. If you want to ever adjust your stone settings, you can click this pencil. Most of the time they should be set pretty well, but if for some reason um, they get wiped or anything like that, you can just come back and edit them. So the fixed size is what they're going to be set to. So I usually will set the variance to 1 higher. So our SS10 example, it's set to 136 and our fixed size is 135. So the letter spacing, yeah, you can always adjust the letter spacing too. That would have to be done at this point before you resize. Now with this font, you can notice when I pull the stones away, how they don't line up very well. And that's because of the different letters and how they're set up. So most of the time you can actually kind of get away with a 2 font when it's a 2 color like this. But because the stones aren't going to line up perfect, it's not going to work. But you could just use, if you wanted, your design just like this without the stones too. So all these, anything that's like a 2 color font or a setup like this, it's kind of a few fonts in one, because most of the time you can use each version separately or them together like this. All right, so any questions on our multi-deck fonts? All right, keep going. All right, so last week we went over pretty much the majority of the edit tab. We left power clipping out just because that's a pretty unique tool in itself, and we can dive into it a little bit more this week. So just to kind of get a feel, have you guys used the power clip feature before? And just yeah, so it's a pretty unique tool, and you can do a lot of depending on what type of finished products you can do a lot of cool designs using the power clip. So if you're using just vinyl as your finished product, it's still a useful tool. But if you're using like anything print wise, you can make a lot of cool graphics using the power clip tool. All right, so the first way to use it, I'll show you kind of setting up your own. And to do that, we'll use some artwork. So let's just we'll grab some sports balls. So let's do basketball. Soccer. Football, and then we'll do a baseball too. So what I'm doing now is just selecting pretty much the vector items. So I have my baseball, a basketball, football, and then a soccer ball. So what I want to do at this point is I'm going to create a pattern. Have we gone over the magic? I don't think we've gone over the magic patterns yet, but let me show you those real quick. And we're kind of making our own, but we're setting them up ourselves. So let's just say we'll stick with Mustangs for now. kind of give you an idea of what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to weld this Mustang's text together, and then I'm going to add just a boundary around this design, this Mustang's text. So we can see that there. So what the magic patterns will do is we have the patterns down here, or you can open up the Docker. So these are already patterns with different shapes pulled through them. So you can select these different shapes, and let's say I take the polka dots, and it will crop it out of your design. So let's make this a little bit bigger. I'll do this one here. So I made the design like pretty big, so that's why it's taking a second to run the pattern through it. So these patterns will just go right through your design. Still trying to load with this one. There we go. So I made this design a lot bigger, but this pattern, let me just make it smaller so we can see how they're actually supposed to work. So we have different ones. So here's our football one. So again, it'll just cut this pattern through our entire design. So we got our front and back layer here. So what the power clip tool is going to let us do is actually create our own patterns, like our magic patterns here, and use them throughout our design. So an example like this, I try to make the sports balls pretty much the actual size. So something like this. And then just try to recreate this pattern a few times. So when we did our first overview, we learned about the copy selected. So I can just make a copy. And I'm going to set this to about 0.25. Hit to the right. And that's just making a copy for me. And then I'm going to go up. And then once I go up, I try to just fit this in like something like that. And then I'll just try to go up again and keep adjusting as needed. So now we got kind of just a pattern going. So I'm going to weld all these together. Hey Tanya, welcome. We're just getting started, so no worries. All right, so now all these are welded together. Now I could do a group too. If I wanted like all different colors, you can do that as well. For this example, we're just going to use one color, and I'll make these just kind of this orange, light orange. All right. So once we have our object, let's go ahead and make this blue, and we'll make this gray. So once we have our object, we're going to right click. We're going to select Power Clip Inside, and I'm going to select the top part of my Mustang's text. So right away, you'll see that pattern we just created go into our design. And you can select the gray, and you can make that black, you can make it white, whatever color makes it easier to stand out. So if you click on this pattern and hover up kind of a little bit below it, you'll see these options come up. So it'll say Edit Power Clip. So you can select this design, and let's say you want your kind of sports balls to come in a little bit bigger. Well, I can make these larger. I can move this around. And this will, once I'm done, I just hit this little check where it says stop editing. And then it'll move those sports balls around throughout my design to give me different looks. So I can hit edit again. I can select this. I can completely rotate it. So I wanted it like this. And when I'm in this point, I can still make copies if I wanted to. Hit OK. And now I have a different version. If I wanted to make maybe two colors, I can make this side black, hit OK, and now you get two colors. So once they're in there, you can still edit them as a power clip. Let's just I'm going to make our background a little bit larger. So this, yeah, so we just had a question, is this for vinyl? So yeah, what we're setting this up for would be a vinyl finish. Now, we need to make this even larger. All right, so I'm just making that background a little bit larger so it stands out. So now, once we select the white layer here, if I come down to this button right here where it says convert power clip to cuttable vector, that subtracts and separates all my layers now. So all this yellow is one piece, this white is one piece, and then my black's one piece. So now I could send this right to or I could use, I could send this to my vinyl cutter at this point. Is the patterns part of the TRW wizard? So we created the patterns you see through the Mustangs text right now. We just created that, but you can get similar patterns using our TRW magic patterns too. But the power clip lets you pretty much create your own patterns however you'd like. So let's go back. We had a couple people asking if we could show that again, so no problem. So let's go back to the beginning where we had our original pattern. Okay. So we have just our Mustangs text just here. Go ahead and add our background to it. So we have our two colors here. So with our sports balls, we're pretty much just making a pattern. It's a little bit smaller, and we'll mix it up a little bit more this time. Alright. So once we set up our part here, we're just going to use our copy tool just to set up a couple copies. So we can copy and move over, or once we get to a point like this, we can always just fill it in. Actually, let's just move it. It'll probably be a little easier. So let's hit up on the copy, and then I'm just going to move this part over a little bit and down into this open area. We're going to add one more sport in here to kind of fill that gap. So we'll throw some volleyball in here too. Yeah, you could do a copy and paste too and set up your design or these areas just like that too. Whatever's easier. Yeah, we just went over the copy tools the other day, so I was just incorporating a little bit more. So once we get nice pattern, something set up like this. Let's see a little bit more. I'll leave it like that. All right, so once this is set up, we'll go ahead and weld. And then we're just gonna right click, power clip inside. It's gonna give us this little arrow. We're gonna select the text. Now again, it doesn't fill up everything yet. So we're gonna hit edit. And then I can rotate this. I can make it larger. Whatever helps fill that area. And if I want to as well, we can always make an extra copy. If you need it to like fill a little area like that. So we'll hit done editing. You'll see the vector art running through our design just like that. So now we'll use the power clip tool. So convert power clip to cuttable vector, and that just subtracts our top layer, our white layer, we'll make that gray again, and then our blue layer in the back. The links to 1 and 2 for the overviews, if you actually go to our Facebook page, the post for tonight's, I set the links for 1 and 2 in there. That would be probably the easiest way right now to find them. All right, so now, depending on, we had a question about getting this ready to cut. So if you're using EasyWeed, essentially you could layer this right on top. Otherwise, you could use the magic boundary tool. So you can hit contour, remove shapes behind, and set this to about 0.0, let's say 3. I'm selecting the gray first, magic boundary, it'll separate that, and we can actually go a little bit bigger. And then same, now we're going to select our blue, magic boundary, and that would separate it all for us that way. So then if I wanted to use all glitter, you could set it up that way. And I could completely like remove those out, you know, depending on how you wanted your design set up. All right, so that's when we're working with vinyl, and we already had the question come in, can you do this with pictures? So yeah, that's kind of like the next step with these power clips is, now I just made something a second ago where it's just like this all-star layout. This is kind of our template. So what you could do, you know, printing wise, you can even add like a nice gradient fill. Say something like that. And then I can select my picture here. I'm going to right click, power clip inside. Now I'm going to select my black circle, and it'll throw my image right into my design just like that. Now, obviously right now that doesn't look too good, but remember we can always hit edit. So in this case, I want to get as much as my player as I can into that circle without exposing any areas like that. So we don't want to really stretch it too much, but if it's just a little bit and you can't really tell in the image, we can cover it up that way. Then I hit the done. And now I have just a nice little template set up like that. Now with these type of designs, this is strictly, print. Direct to garment, sublimation. So any questions about the power clipping with images? Yeah. So let's go ahead. We'll go back. We'll go over it again. No problem. So you can select this button right here on the software, power clip an image to a shape, and it will let you select the image from any of your artwork. Or you can select the image, right click, and power clip inside, and then just left click your object that you want the image to go to. So in this case, the black circle. Hover over the bottom, it'll pop up with edit power clip. Select the design, just resize it to fit. When you're done, just check that okay, and then you'll have your finished design just like that. Yeah, when you're with this power clip, you can use any like shape or design or anything like that. So if you still had that Mustang's text, you could even use that shape or that text like that. So I can right click, hit extract contents. We have our image here, power clip inside. I could throw it in my text. Now, this design's not going to look too good on it just because I have to blow it way up. But I can try to move my player so you show up a little bit on the letters. Hit OK. You can add contours to the outside. So yeah, any type of object or text, anything like that, we can set these power clips to. So someone asked, what do you usually power clip? What type of design? So kind of like, the all-star one we did here. Sometimes you'll see like awards, like plaques and stuff like that. Anything kind of like even like the text field here. But mostly like awards and stuff like that. You'll see it a lot. Yep, any shape, as long as it's a vectorized object that you're sending the design to or text, you're good to go. So this design right here wouldn't be a cut ready design. This would have to be some type of print just because you're using an actual like picture, not a vectorized object. The first one we did with the other Mustangs and clip art we added, you can send to the cutter, but this wouldn't work for vinyl. All right, so now we'll go ahead and get into the mockups tab. So has everyone, have you guys created some? I know I see some familiar faces that definitely have, but for some of the people that are newer, have we ran through the mockup tab yet? Does everyone know how to set their information up? Okay, so a little of everything. All right. It shuts down the wizard. Now, Tanya, when it shuts down the wizard, is that a mockup you created or one that we have programmed into it already? Still need help with the logo and watermark? No problem. Okay. So it might have just been something wrong with the when we saved it. So yeah, I'll run through that. I think we'll have time to go through a little bit of the mockup creator too. So I'll run through that as well, and then we can just make sure you're doing the same steps. Yeah, either way. All right. So the first thing we'll do is set up our information. So when we create these mockups, when we do the templates, we can create watermarks. We can create all of our information. So every time we create a mockup, it's already all your information just is preloaded into certain areas on each mockup. So if you come down here, you might see something that says like descriptions under watermarks and logos. So to the right of that, we have a little pencil. If you hover over it, it should say edit watermarks and logos. So we're just going to left click. And if you select description, you should see all the information pop up above. So we have description, watermark text, transparency, logo, path, business name, website, phone, email, street address, and city, state, and zip. If you actually select the description, you should, if nothing's popped up, try to click on the description and see if it pops up that way. So once it's there, if nothing's showing up, you can just copy pretty much what we're going to put, but with your information. So the description, you can see below, I have some examples. We pretty much did TRW or the Rhinestone World. So you're going to enter just pretty much your company name here. So I'll do the TRW2. And then the next is going to be our watermark text. So this is what's going to go over our images to help protect them. So if we're listing any of these designs on our websites or anything like that, we can add any watermark text we want. So this can be your website name, just simply copyrighted, anything we want as the watermark text. So in this case, we'll do the rhinestoneworld.com. Now the transparency, I would leave around 80. And that should be a pretty good transparency. If you want it darker, you can go with a lower number here. And if you want it lighter, you can go with a higher number. All right, so the next is our logo path. So if we have a company logo, we can use that and it'll import it into our mockups. So you just select this little folder here. In this case, I'm just gonna use, now you would go to wherever you have your logo saved, select that design. I'm just gonna simply select a soccer ball as my logo. But you'll see the path that it has. So you would just go to your documents, to your pictures, wherever you have your logo saved, and just select that design. All right, so business name, again, this one's just gonna be the Rhinestone World. Web, that's actually gonna be the same as my watermark text. And I like to put the watermark text as my website, just because, let's say someone, like images always get somehow put on like Google and stuff like that by just sharing and stuff like that. So if somehow your image gets up there and someone searches like soccer shirts and you just created one and yours pop up and it has your text going through it, you know, people can see that and maybe go to your site and see what your, you know, what else you have to offer that way. So I like to have my watermark text as just the Rhinestone World, or, you know, wherever I want them to be directed to. If you don't have one right now, you can always do just copyrighted or a business name, and that way they can find you that way. Do we make our logo all one color? It doesn't matter. So if your logo, it's most of the time this is just going to be a picture that pops up, like that's your logo. So one thing I would do is just make it, when you save it at your logo, save it as a transparent image. That way, whatever background color, you don't see like a white box around it. So phone, email, street, and then any yeah, you can save your image as a PNG, your logo as a PNG. All right, so this is the really important part. Once we have everything filled out, we need to click add. So this button right here, click add, and then you should see TRW2 or whatever you just named it in your description down here. So if I have a few of them, but let's say I don't, these are old, I can actually use this X to delete them out. So hopefully, if you haven't set this up, it should probably look something like this. One description, and then underneath it, the one we just added. So to make this our default, if you click the up arrow here, it should move to the top. Or if you have a few, whatever you want your default to be, just click this up arrow until the one you have selected is at the top. Once we have all those edits, then we click save. And that's going to save all of our changes we just made. So if I go to my mockups now, you should see, instead of description, you should see whatever information we just input here. So this is going to be our tier W2. If you don't click add and save, all that information isn't going to be saved in there, and then you're going to have to go back and do it again. So now what we can do, let's go ahead and make our design. So we'll use our new font from tonight. So this is our Sportline Multi. So again, we want to start with our vector font, hit the 2. That's going to fill it with rhinestones. And then I'm just going to size this to SS10s. So I have that set up there. And then let's go to our TRW 130. Type athletics. Now I'm going to use my text spacing tool. Just space that out a little bit. Resize those to 10s. That looks pretty good like that. So I'll put this underneath. so now I have my design set up just like that. So if I go to my Mockups tab, let's go ahead and we'll set this to some glitter gold. And our stones here will make crystals. So they're still there. I just made them white, so it's going to be a little hard to see them right now. All right, so now we can start creating our mockups. So the first section you'll see at the top of our mockups tab is our quick product. So usually the quick product is to make designs to be listed maybe on your site or to send a customer just a quick proof of what your design is going to look like on a selected t-shirt. So the first drop down is going to be all of our different folders. So the design wizard is going to come preloaded with some guys, women's, boys, girls, infant, and then some kind of like a car decal or car window, a tote bag, just some miscellaneous items. Now you'll see mine has cups and mugs, so you won't see that in yours. Those are because you can actually create any additional folders into the software and bring in any type of design. So if I go to cups and mugs, you'll see my tumbler that I brought in that I wanted to add some designs to. So as you filter through some of these, like my men's, I've added a blue sleeve raglan shirt. Sorry, raglan. But you'll actually have a lot of preloaded designs in here, as our mock-ups, t-shirts in here as well. So we'll go to our women since we're doing stones and glitter. We're going to go to our next drop down and you'll see all the different styles. So burnout front, dry fit front, long sleeve front, scoop neck front, tank top front, or v-neck. So we'll do the burnout front and then you'll see a little preview right here. So our next options is if we have stones in our design, we can hit the simulate stones and we can add our watermark to our design. So I'm going to hit both, highlight my design, and then left click my shirt. Now, you can barely see my rhinestone text going through my shirt right here. That's my watermark. So it's a little bit hard to see because it's on a white t-shirt. So what we can do is this is actually just a power clip on top of our design. So we can click edit power clip, click that area, and it'll put this big box around our design. I'm going to left click any color that I want. And it will change that text to the color I have selected. So if I want black text going across because it's on like a white background, you can go ahead and do that. Hover down here at the bottom, hit done, and now that will show up a lot more. Now if I want to change the color of my t-shirt, you'll just want to move that to the back side, change it. Make my t-shirt just a little bit bigger. And then when I'm done, I'm just going to move that layer, my watermark, back to the front. Now, you don't see it because it's black on black, so if I hit edit power clip again, and maybe change this to a blue or a white, or just something a little lighter, let's go with a gray even. Then I'll hit done. Now you'll see that watermark on top. Hey Jerry, welcome. And the simulate stones button, when you zoom in, you can see how when it puts it on our design like this, that it makes it real stones instead of just like the circle patterns. So it's just going to make our designs look a little bit nicer. All right. So now underneath we have more of our templates. So our templates, all that information we just entered will show up mostly on our templates tab. So we have two types. We have our basic and advanced. The basics isn't going to go, the basics just has a couple options and then you can change everything once it's created. The advanced allows you to select everything ahead of time before you get to the final mock-up, like the price, the color of the background, everything like that. Otherwise, you can just select basic and then change everything at the end. So we'll run through an advanced setup. And now we have our templates. So this bottom half, you'll select templates. You'll see all the drop downs of our templates. So we'll do an order form with one product. Or we'll do two products. And you'll see the layout right here. So let's go ahead. We want to, again, we're working with stones. And I don't need my watermark on this one because this is actually going to be more, I'm going to send this as a printout. I'm not going to list this anywhere, so I don't need my watermark on it. So I'm going to highlight my design, and I'm going to click the launch window, and that's just that button right there. So now it's going to ask us select, or it's going to tell us to select product 1, and it's going to list all those folders that were in the drop down. So women's, and right up top here you actually have like a view changer. So if you bring this all the way to the top, you get a better idea of what these t-shirts are going to look like before you actually bring them in. So let's just say a regular scoop neck this time. This is going to be our product 1. And this is going to be our product type. So we're doing a standard shirt size. This is the name. So we're doing a women's scoop neck. We're going to hit OK. And now it's going to ask us to select design 1. So we're going to highlight this section. You can move this box around to get out of your way if you need to. If you hit OK without selecting something, it's just going to go down the middle and re-ask you again to select your design. So select that, hit OK. And now you're going to do the price. So let's say this one is $27. Hit OK. And now we did a 2 product. So now it's asking us everything about product 2. So again, women's, let's say long sleeve this time. Standard shirt. And women's long sleeve. Okay. Select design 2. So again, you can move this box, highlight this section, hit OK. And this long sleeve will be 32. I'm going to hit OK. And now this time, it's going to generate our mock-up. All right, so remember I just chose that soccer ball as my logo, so that's why it has the soccer ball randomly right here. Otherwise, all my other information that we set up is going to automatically populate in all these areas. So the basic, what it's going to do is it's not going to ask you what kind of template you want here. So when we selected the shirt sizes, this is what it was referring to. In the pricing, it's not going to ask, but we can change that as we get here. So typically I'll do the advanced, but sometimes I'll just do a basic as well. So yeah, at this point we can edit everything on this screen. So I can select both shirts. I can make them any color scheme I want. I can select the backgrounds. Again, I can make those different colors too. Even any section, any of our text, I can make that, anything on here. So this whole page you can edit. Yeah, so this add bling button, what that's gonna do is when we have t-shirts that have rhinestones, we have this nice add bling feature. So we click this button here. And then left click, and it'll drop these little bling for us. Now these are just for mock-ups, but we place them over some of the stones, and it just looks like those stones are now shining a little bit more. So Jerry, if you import our mockups from the 4, will they be on all the computers? You'll have to import it on every computer. So if you had the 4 on 2 computers, you'll need to import it on each one. If you do it just on, like, let's say you have a laptop and a desktop, if you just do it on the laptop, it won't automatically import on the other one. So any other questions on our mockups? So I got a couple questions in. Can you have 2 different areas for your designs? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Carol. Can you have 2 different areas for your designs? If you had to, yes. So maybe if, like, let's say we didn't have any stones in here, and we were doing 2 shirts, one for guys and one for girls. If you had both of your designs on one page, when it asked you what design to select, you would just highlight the one you wanted. So if I had it set up like this, where this had the glitter and stones, and then this was just my basic one, when it selects, it will ask you to select what design you want in the mock-up, and you just highlight that section. Oh, I have a customer that needs 2 different designs on the back. Gotcha. So in that case, what you can always do, if you already have a shirt, you can always, we can import, or if you just had the back, if you selected the back instead, so let's say we have our design like this. We have Mustangs, and I'm just going to do a quick one on the back of this shirt. So if they wanted a different design on there too, once that's on there, you can take any design, go to your mock-up page, and where's the one we just made, and you can add that second part right to your mock-up wherever you'd like. Meyer, where can I get the Mustang font? At the end, I'll show you the Mustang font. We actually have a little sale going on it, so I'll show you that at the end. Yeah, Marcia, we have a few videos on the mock-up creator. So next week, what we'll do is we'll go over the mock-up creator next week so I can go a little bit more in depth with it. And there is kind of a way too where you can actually add kind of two boxes on one mock-up. It's a little more in depth, but with the mock-up creator next week, we should be able to show that a little bit too. But for now, I would just do it on one side and then just copy over anything we want. Still don't understand how to separate the two parts in the power clip. Okay, so with the power clip, all that is, let's say we have our text like this, do our impact. So I'm going to weld this all together, and I'm just going to make some stars. So I'm just going to weld all these stars together. So I'm going to right click. So now I have my two objects right now. I have my pattern that I just created. That's a vector pattern. And I welded them all together. So I'm just going to right click this object and select power clip inside. And then you see this arrow here. So you're just going to left click the Spartans text. And that's going to pretty much shoot those stars right into the text field. So this little button down here, when you hover over it, it will say edit power clip. So at this point, I can adjust the stars in kind of any, if I want to make them bigger, if I want to move them down here, however I want these to show up through my design, I can hit OK, and now you'll see how you get different patterns showing up. So let's go ahead and put these back through. We can rotate them a little and then hit OK. So now, once we have our design, when we're ready to break these two, because right now if you click on the Spartans, it's just like kind of reading it as one object. So now what we want to do is come over to the edit tab on the software, and we have this the P with the arrow to the V. That's going to be our power clip, turning it into a cuttable vector. So you just select that button, you're going to left click, and then all of our stars are going to be one piece, and then we still have our black layer. So with our software, then we just use our templates tab, TRW magic separator, and it will separate our two pieces. Is there a way to do this without the wizard? So the power clip tool itself is just a Corel tool. Let's see. What we probably could do, break power clip. So right click, and we're going to select break power clip curve apart. No. I'm pretty sure there's a way. I'll have to double check. Pretty much what you could do with the power clip instead, if you didn't have the software. No, the power clip tool we actually have in the software is fairly old. I think it might have even been on the 3. I know it was on the 4. So let's say we have our design like this before we actually power clip it. If you hover over your design like this, where you actually put the stars on top, you can pretty much line these up however you want on top. And then highlight this entire design. And up top here, you'll have this intersect tool. So the intersect tool, anywhere those stars are on top of my Spartans text, it will pretty much just give you those right on top. And then that would separate as two cuttable like 2 pieces itself. So with this version, pretty much you just don't know exactly what this is going to look like. So there might be a little bit more trial and error where you're kind of like, okay, if I move this a little bit this way and do an intersect, move this down, change the color. Okay, that I kind of like that outline, and then they're pretty much just separated by themselves, or they're, sorry, 2 pieces like that. So the power clip is pretty much that converting to a vector would be a wizard tool. If you didn't have the software, you would just use the intersect in Corel. Of course. All right. So before we wrap up tonight, we had a question about that font we're using, so I'll show you that real quick. So on our website, it should be right up on the main page. I believe Matt released it either yesterday or today. So right here, the sport line text. So actually too, so it's $5 off tonight, but what we did is we activated TRW release 65. So this excuse me, this code right here we activated tonight. This will give you 65% off any font or mini pack on the site. So you'll get $5 off plus the additional 65% off. So the $20 and then 65% off that. But that will actually work for any fonts or any mini packs that we have listed. So that's going to be our TRW release 65. All right, guys. Any other questions before we wrap up tonight? All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. I know Matt should be going live here shortly with his Ask Matt, so stay tuned for that. I think he said around 9:30. I told him he had to wait this week because he usually cuts into our time, so wanted to make sure we got done tonight. But yeah, otherwise, so I'll have that home fixed. Yeah, sorry about anyone that watched that home state one last week, the cursor was off. So I was able to fix it, but the only thing is it was through the recording through the site we use. So it won't have that little, like, usually we highlight our cursor with that yellow little circle. This one, because it's like a recording through GoToWebinar, I couldn't add the cursor to it. So the cursor's moving now, but there's no like little yellow circle. So it's going to be a little bit easier to follow, but it's not exactly like they usually are. But yeah, that one I edited it today. It'll probably be up early tomorrow morning to officially watch the new one though. But it was editing before we did our webinar, so that will be listed tomorrow along with this one. This one should be up tomorrow as well. Anyone that was asking for volume 1 and 2, you can find that on our site, or you can do Maria just asked how many we've done. We've done 3 of these overviews so far, but we've done a few already. just the wizard in general. But I was late. If you go to our Facebook page, the post for tonight's, I actually linked overview 1, overview 2 on there. So if you're new and haven't seen the 1 and 2 yet, 1 goes over the live templates, which is probably one of our biggest features, plus the text effect tool. And then 2, we went over a little bit we went over the edit tab, and then the fonts, and then we wrapped up the fonts tonight, and then we did the power clip and mockup. So we got the magic tab still left, the mockup creator. So we got a couple more of these overviews left. Are you gonna do one to send to the Cameo? We probably won't do like a full webinar on that, but if you check out our YouTube videos, we have a lot of different videos of like just quick little videos for something like that. Perfect. All right, guys. Any additional questions? Give us a call at 941-755-1696 or shoot us an email at info@therhinestoneworld. Gabe's no longer here, so I can't tell you to ask for Gabe anymore because that won't work. But yeah, we miss him too. I know. But we can start asking for Joe. How about that? Just start asking for Joe. All right, ask Matt on the YouTube channel. Yep, he's going live probably any minute now. So I'll let you guys go, and I'll have this posted for you guys tomorrow. Have a great week, and we'll definitely have some more webinars later this week. So just check out our Facebook page and our site, and we'll have those listed by tomorrow. All right, guys, have a great night.